Have you ever wondered what gouache is, or even how to pronounce it? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be playing with gouache in very simple ways, and I'm going to create all these. Woo! So hang.
What the heck is gouache? And do I need it? Do you need it? I don't know. But I have it. I love it. Today I'm using gouache from Arteza, and I actually have a coupon code for you. I'll talk more about that in the video and mention some information down in the description below. But let's show some different ways that you can use gouache in your card making, and then I'll chat about what it is. So I'm just using some gouache, and I am basically painting it right onto a stamp. All the supplies, as always, is going to be listed in the description below. This is a beautiful butterfly stamp, and you might be wondering, hey, where's it from? I got you covered. The whole supply list and everything I'm using and all the colors and stamps and everything is in the description below. So I'm just going to go on, and I basically am watering down the gouache a little bit. My paintbrush is very wet. And I just painted that butterfly, and then I'm just going to stamp it. Now here's number one why I like gouache. I don't have to use my expensive watercolored cardstock. That's right, you can use whatever cardstock you have. Watercolor cardstock is expensive. It just is. And the fact that I don't have to use it when I'm using gouache is everything to me. It's everything. Now, you can still use gouache like you would with some watercoloring techniques by combining two different colors. So I'm using blue and pink to get a purple, and I'm using quite a bit of it. It looks really ugly on that stamp, but when you press it onto your cardstock, it just transfers absolutely beautifully. And I am able to get lots of prints and do lots of things just with this gouache. And because it's gouache and not watercolor, it's a lot thicker. So when I go ahead and paint directly onto the stamp, you can do that with your regular watercolors, of course, and I've done it in countless videos. But with gouache, it's a lot thicker. So here I am taking the gouache. I'm not watering it down very much at all, and I am just painting my butterfly here, and it looks like a hot mess. Doesn't look like it's going to amount much to anything other than a blob of blue and pink, but it's really cool. So I'm making sure that I've got a thick layer. I'm kind of dabbing my paintbrush, and because gouache is just, texturally thicker, the details of that stamp are really going to come through a lot more than it would if I had used traditional watercolors. It would have almost kind of faded, because watercolors, I picture watercolors as very soft. Like watercolors is like a little fairy to me, just kind of floating around on the paper, and gouache is like in your face paint, right? That's a terrible way of putting it. But anyway, it's kind of what it is. So gouache is opaque. It's mixed with white paint, watercolor, and some kind of binding agent. I don't know what the binding agent is. I don't even care. I just think it's cool that I don't have to use fancy, expensive watercolor, but B, it's just really thick, creamy paint. And I can do so much. So I painted this butterfly. I just applied paint to it one time, and I am going to get not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 prints from that one stamp that I painted with one time. And you can actually see, when I hold it up a little bit, you can see some of the thickness of that gouache that's coming through on that butterfly. And the fact that I can get 6 prints off of this without having to wet it or re-add any paint is crazy to me. So also, number 2 why I love gouache is it works great on dark cardstock. It really shows. It's so cool. But now I've got these 6 prints. I can turn them into 6 cards, all from one stamping session without having to repaint or add water or anything. It's just bada bang. Now, while the gouache is still wet, you can spray it with some water like I just did, and check out the result of that. Hello. So it kept its shape. The butterfly is still there in all the details, but some of the gouache kind of wicked out and created this beautiful soft watercolor look. If this had been traditional watercolored, it probably would have lost most of the shape and the definition of that butterfly. But because gouache is thicker, I didn't have to worry too much about that. So I'm going to do some simple painting here. I'm using the gouache straight out of the tube, like I mentioned. You can use it straight out of the tube. You can water it down some to create more washes and to kind of thin it out a little bit. I enjoy using it straight out of the tube here, so that's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to apply a wash of just blue. This is regular, inexpensive white cardstock. You can use whatever you got. This happens to be 80-pound Nina's Solar White, but I just love, I know I'm harping on this, that I don't have to use my expensive watercolored cardstock. And then I'm going to make sure this is good and dry, and then I'm going to start painting these little flowers. So I'm using this bright pink. Now watch as I put it down. So I'm putting it down. It goes on, you know, you can still kind of see through it. You can still see through the blue, but I'm going to dry it, and then it just starts to soften up. It gets like matte and a little chalky looking. Then I'm going to go and put another layer of that down right over the top, and then you'll really be able to see it as it dries here because this is a lot brighter. So here, the more paint I put down, it's like the more opaque it gets, right? You're not going to be able to see through that background. You're not going to be able to see that blue anymore because I keep layering the pink on top of it. And then I just think it's cool as it dries. So then I'll go on with a little lighter color pink. This little pink I'm using now is a metallic gouache. So they do have a metallic line of gouache, which is neat. So I'm just playing around. I'm not a chemist. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how any of this works. I just keep playing until I like how it looks. Now I'm going to go in and make blue leaves and stems because who says, you know, besides Mother Nature, that, you know, you can't have blue leaves and stems. Anyway, I'm just playing around and having a good old time here. But I really think it's cool to watch how the properties of gouache work. So the more paint I put down, the more opaque it gets. And it just completely covers up that background, because the first layer of pink I put down, you could still see that blue background. After 3 layers of pink, you can't. But it also added shading. It just did it all for me, right? So here I am. Then I added some green for the stems over the blue. So it's really cool how you can layer color on top of another color without having to put on 15 layers of that color. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to keep adding layer after layer to really get that color to pop off of a dark, like for instance, the leaf is blue. Then I put a green on over the blue. I only had to put the green on once, and it covered just great. You can also create some fun doodled backgrounds here with this color. So I don't know. I think I went on Pinterest and typed in doodles or something like that. I don't know. And saw some really fun patterns. So I'm recreating what I'm looking at on Pinterest, I believe. Thank God for Pinterest. I love Pinterest. When I'm in a creative slump, I go to Pinterest. So here I am just painting, and again, I'm layering on the colors, just having a good time, really not even worrying about cleaning my brush too much in between. It looks like I didn't really care, apparently. But once I got this little doodled background, it was pretty easy to build a card off of that. All these cards that I'm turning into cards, with the exception of the hand painted one, I'm turning to my magic mug. Do you know what I'm talking about, the magic mug? No? Okay, check out this video right up here in the top right hand corner, and it's going to tell you all about the magic mug. But I'm able to, once these backgrounds are done, I just dump my magic mug to my desk, and that's how I created all of these backgrounds. Thank you, magic mug. And hooray! This card is done. All right, then another thing you can do is create little stripes. And here's what another thing I like about gouache is I'm going to take my heat gun, I'm going to make sure each thing that I paint is dry, and then I'll go on and add a new color. And by doing so, it seems to be permanent. So when I'm adding the new color on top of the dry color, they don't bleed into each other. They don't mix. So I like that because I'm able to get all the colors on this background. And this is a fun, vibrant, bright background. Who wouldn't like to receive this in the mail, these fun, bright colors? And then the sentiment. The sentiment that I added to this card, I mean, seriously, today was going so great. And then people. Although it meant more when I was actually leaving my house and seeing people. Right now I'm not seeing many people, so The last thing is the palette dump. Now, I didn't think to press record until after I started it, but I took the leftover gouache that was in the palette, I sprayed it liberally with some water, and then took the palette and dumped it onto this card, and then onto this card. That's the palette dump, and I got these 2 prints, and they're amazing. And then I took one of the prints and turned it into this card, and I love how that turned out too. So you've got direct to stamp painting, layering, doodle backgrounds, the palette dump. I had a lot of fun with this video today, just trying out gouache.
I've got an awesome video for you to check out right here. Click, click, clickety click. And thanks so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you again next time. Bye. Bye.